Hey crafty friends, it's Christina. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a fun video, kind of a long video today, because I'm going to be making 3 cards using this Concord and Ninth Cottage Garden bundle that I picked up a couple months ago, and I'm just getting around to playing with it now. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let's hop in and make some cards. We're going to be playing with this Concord and Ninth Cottage Garden bundle that I bought, I think probably over the summer. I think it's like two releases ago. And it is adorable, and I thought I would play with this today. Mainly I wanted to play with the stencils. I was feeling like a little bit of stencils, but I also really love this stamp set. I just think it's so simple, and I think the sentiments are perfect for making a bunch of different styles of cards that I can have in my stash. And then I also have the coordinating dies. I'm going to set the stamp and dies to the side for right now because I'm going to be playing with the stencils. So the stencils have 3 different styles, and I did go ahead and kind of ink these out already just to see what layers do when, because they're not numbered. At least I'm not seeing that they're numbered, so I did play with these just to kind of get a sense of what layers I should do first. And the one thing I did learn is that I'm going to go with this layer first, which will be my lighter color. Then I'll do this layer as a darker color, and then my final layer will be the stems and centers of the flowers. So I'm going to put the last two layers to the side. I am going to use my Waffle Flower Media Grip Mat. I've been playing with this, and so far I am really liking this for holding my cardstock in place, especially when I'm stenciling. Now this stencil is a little bit smaller, or just a slightly larger than an A2 size card. So I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and just put it right onto this grip mat. Now this is like a photopolymer stamp. That's exactly what it's made out of. Same thing that the stamps are made out of. And it works great for holding our things in place. Now the only thing, because this stencil doesn't have a big border on it, it doesn't exactly grip very well to the mat. So I am going to take some tape and hold it into place so that it doesn't move around, and it's a little bit easier later for lining up my next layer. So I have to peel this up because I'm not in the spot that I want to be in. I'm going to start by lining up, there's little marks here on the corners, and I'm going to line the cardstock up there. So when I go to place my next piece of cardstock down, or my next layer of my stencil down, it will hold it into place and I'll be lined up pretty good. So I'm just going to stick just 2 pieces of tape on the sides. And like I said, because the stencil is not quite not too much larger than my piece of cardstock, I'm using the tape to secure it in place just a little bit better. I'm going to start off with my lighter color and go to my darker color. So I'm going to start with, I'm using all Concord and Ninth inks today. Grapefruit, Sorbet, Clementine, and Avocado for this card. And we are going to be starting with the Grapefruit, which is my lighter color. And I'm just going to pick up some of that ink and blend it onto my cardstock. And I really love this color, this Grapefruit color, and I'm very much enjoying Concord and Ninth ink. It is so much, the colors that are just beautiful. That sounds like it's been coming to my street. So I'm going to blend this out. I'm going to do this on all of the different floral areas, so every single one of these actually will get this color Sorbet. Nope, Grapefruit. So I'm just going to keep blending, and I'm just doing a light color. And I'm probably going to speed up the video just a little bit so you don't get bored watching me blend ink, but it's super simple. Love that color, it's stunning. All right, I'm going to switch now to my second layer. So once again, I'm gonna start by lining up in the corner. This particular stencil has 3 marks on it and not 4, so we kind of have to really be careful on how we're lining it up. And again, I'm going to use my tape to hold it into place. And then we're going to do some Sorbet as our next color, which is a little bit of a darker shade. I'm just using a paper towel to wipe off some of the color. Kind of dark. So we're going to blend out the darker color. Are those 2 colors? Oh, I love those 2 colors together. Gorgeous. All right, that was our second stencil. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our third stencil. And again, lining the corners up just to make sure we're all in the right spot here. And then I'm also gonna double check the stencil as well. Now for this one, I'm not going to use all of the same color. For all of the pieces, I'm actually going to use 2 different colors. So we're going to start with Clementine, and Clementine's going to be my middle pieces, and I'm not liking how this one is lined up here. Let's just double check, make sure we're lined up where we want it to be before we start committing to stenciling. So this time I'm just going to actually line it up. Okay, we can do this. Okay. So this time I just lined it up using the 3 different flowers to make sure I'm in the right spot, because if I lined it up in the corners, it wasn't matching. So we're going to use Clementine for the center pieces. And this is a really gorgeous orange color when it dries back. So it's probably going to come out pretty bright when it's first on here, but I'm going to use it to do the 3 centers of the flowers. All right, so we have those 3 done. If they were closer together, I probably would have masked off some of the stencil, but they're not very close, so we should be okay without smearing. But I am going to take my piece of paper toweling and kind of wipe off this stencil just so I don't get any orange into my green color. So we're just gonna wipe that off just gently. And then I'm gonna grab a green blending brush. Make sure this is nice and clean, because I know last time I used them, I was using brighter colors. So get that nice and clean, we're going to use avocado for the leaf layer. We're just going to ink this up and blend it out. This avocado color is just a gorgeous color. Love this color green. For some reason, I'm always drawn to the color in avocado, in cardstock and ink and such, so I really love it. Okay, I'm gonna peel this back and we're gonna reveal our finished background here. How gorgeous is that background? Love it. I am going to set that aside because I'm going to clean up these stencils, and I think we're going to do maybe 1 more card using this stencil. I'm going to make a second card, and for this one I am going to be using the same stencil. except for I'm only going to be using certain sections. I'm going to use the 3 larger flowers. So I'm going to have to do a little masking of this. So if you have like a low tack tape, you could do that. If you have Post-it notes, you could put them on there as well. I'm just going to use some of my yellow tape and mask off that area. And just to be safe, I'm going to mask off up here too, because I'm only doing the 3 larger flowers. And we're going to do these in blue. I just thought blue was going to be a pretty color. So I'm going to start off with blueberry. We have Midnight, Stardust, and then I'm going to use Avocado again for the leaves. So I am going to start off with the blueberry. Ooh, that is dark. Okay, that scared me how dark that was. So we're just going to start blending the blueberry. And I think even when I go in and do the Midnight, I may have to do a little additional blending, because I feel like this Midnight is going to be much darker than the blueberry. So I'm going to have to probably come back and do additional shading in here. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to have to do. Maybe just a light touch of the Midnight with the blueberry. But we're going to see how this turns out. I am going to peel off this layer. Isn't that blue gorgeous? That is just a gorgeous color. Then we're going to bring in our second layer. So we're going to be using this one right here. I'm going to line up those corners and then use my tape. Since my tape was on the outside, I just reused this piece. So line up the corners, tape it down. And again, I'm just using the tape because this stencil is not too much bigger than my piece of cardstock, and I wanted to make sure it stayed in place while I was inking. So we're going to go now with Midnight, which is our darker color. And I'm going to blend this. And like I said, I may have to come back in. Ooh, that's dark. I may have to come back in and do some additional blending, but I think that I added enough of the blueberry that we might be okay. And I'll try not to darken it too much, but oh, look how gorgeous that blue is. Just so you know, it's Target Circle Week. Okay, it's reveal time. Yeah, see that blue, that's too much of a difference in contrast for me. So I am going to come back with this stencil, line it up, we'll tape it into place, and then I'm going to come back with the ink that's left currently on with the Midnight color and blend that a little bit more. I just felt like that was going to be too much of a difference. All right, let's see how that looks with the extra blending of the Midnight on top of the blueberry. And I didn't do too much of a heavy hand. It was kind of light. Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, now I am going to come in with Stardust as my centerpiece color. And then I'll come back in with the avocado for my leaves. So again, I'm just going to line this up. And we'll put some tape on here. Okay, before I do that, I'm just taking some water, and I want to pick up some of this blue on the side here, just so that I don't accidentally pick it up with my blending brush. So I'm just wiping that off. Okay, that should be good. And then I'm going to come in with the Stardust for our center. And now I'm going to do my avocado. And again, just to play it safe, I'm going to do a little bit of masking off. I'm just going to use my yellow tape here just to make sure that I don't pick or jump into any of these areas here. I could also use Post-it notes, areas that we don't want to be blending into. Just better put some up here just to play it safe. Better safe than sorry. You don't want to do all that work and then find out you put color in a spot you didn't want. So let me just mark these off too, because I don't want to accidentally just keep filling them in with green and not realize that I'm not using the right color. So we're gonna swap over, whoops, to avocado. And again, we're just gonna blend in the avocado. And for this, I'm just doing the leaves that are around the bigger flowers. I don't want to do, all right, I have to be careful. Okay, lots of masking tape on this one just to keep it so I didn't accidentally blend into areas I didn't want to. And let's see. Oh, the blue is gorgeous with that yellow. I love it. All right, we're gonna peel this one off. I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna do a little cleanup. Decided I needed to make one more because I'm having way too much fun. So I started off with some Tidepool in Oceanside by Concord and 9th for my flowers. And now I'm gonna come in and do my third layer. And with this one, I am going to use Buttercup for the center, and then I will use avocado for my leaves. So I'm just making sure everything's lined up nicely. I'm gonna use Buttercup for the centers. Ooh, that's really bright. Hopefully that will dry back. It just seems awfully bright. I like more softer colors, but it's okay. We're gonna go outside of our comfort zone. Okay, let's see how this one turned out. That is stunning. I was worried this was going to be a little too bright because I couldn't see how light the colors were for the Tidepool and Oceanside, but ooh, I love it. All right, we're going to let this one set aside. We're going to play with that one last because we just did that one. So let's clean up our work area and then we can go ahead and start making some cards. These came out gorgeous. I love all three of them. The colors, that just the little bit of change. Now we're gonna do 3 different cards with these, even though 2 of these backgrounds are pretty much the same, but we're gonna do 3 different cards. So we're gonna go ahead and put these 2 away because we're gonna work on this one first. For this one, I'm actually gonna flip it the other way. We're gonna use it this way, and I am going to bring in my Misti. In my Misti, I have my Waffle Flower Media Mat, or grip mat rather, and I have a piece of white cardstock. I'm gonna put this right into my mat. I have my stamps right here that I'm gonna be using, which is the stamps that coordinate with this die set. And we are going to go ahead and start with, I think for this one, I'm gonna do the I Adore You. So I'm gonna put that one down. And we're gonna pick it up with the cover. And it's just starting to rain. It is glorious. We have had the craziest weather for fall that I have ever seen. It's been 80, 90 degrees on some days. We got close to 90 this week. And normally we are like sweatshirt weather, and instead we're still wearing summer clothes. So it was really nice to hear the rain. Tomorrow it's supposed to be even cooler, and then even cooler coming in the next week. So I'm really excited about it because I need some fall. All right, I went ahead and added my anti-static to get rid of any static or oils from my hands. And we are going to stamp this out. Now this is a new stamp, I haven't used it before. So I'm just going to go ahead and give a little rub over the stamp. Make sure that we have any kind of powders or photopolymer residue on here off so that we get a nice clean stamp. I'm going to take some Versamark ink. I'm going to ink this up and we're going to stamp that out onto our white cardstock. And I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and pick this up and I'm going to add some embossing powder. I have my piece of scrap cardstock here and I'm going to use Brutus Monroe's Raven. So I love this black embossing powder. It is gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that on. I'm going to do it twice. I always seem to like to add embossing powder twice just to make sure I get a good coverage. And then we'll go ahead and funnel this back into our little container here. I'm going to set that one aside, the I Adore You, and I'm going to stamp out the thanks twice because I think I'm going to use that for both of those cards. You can never have too many thank you cards. I'm going to put my stamp right there, close the door and pick it up. And again, it's new, so we're going to go ahead and just rub our fingers over it. I know some people use erasers, I've seen that, but your fingers work. I'm also going to use my anti-static just to take off any static or oils from my hands from the cardstock. And I'm going to stamp both of these in the black as well. So we're going to stamp that out. I'm going to use the Versamark ink again. Just going to ink that up. Do that again. And then I take my card. One thing that's really nice about this grip mat is that I never have to worry about that cardstock moving anywhere, because I won't tell you how many times I didn't realize the cardstock moved and it's not stamped in the same spot because I forgot to move it back. I'm going to put a third coat on this one because I don't know why it's giving me a little bit of difficulties. I'm checking it to make sure it's nice and covered, but I feel like it's not covering everything. So we're going to be safe rather than sorry and just give it a good stamp one more time. And then we'll go ahead and add our embossing powder to both of these at the same time. I'm going to use the black embossing powder again. And you take the 3 sentiments that also came in that stamp set. We have the Never Ever Forget, You're the Best Ever, and Love That I Know You. I'm going to do all 3 of these on black cardstock with white embossing powder. So I'm going to get these set up. I'm going to stamp them out in the Versamark, and then we will go ahead and emboss them with white embossing powder. So we're going to I'm just going to center these a little bit just so that maybe that's what I want to do. I'm not 100% sure. So we'll get that all stamped out. And if you're using black cardstock, it's extremely important to use your anti-static because you're definitely going to see the white. So we're going to get that all cleaned off. That's pretty good. For my white embossing powder, I'm going to use Hero Arts. This is like something that I've had in my collection for the longest time. I just grabbed a little brush so I could brush away any of the white embossing powder that I don't want. I want to make sure that, especially up towards close to the top of the lettering and on either side of it, that there's none, because I think I am going to be die cutting these. So I just want to make sure that we don't have too much extra powder around. So I have a little dot right here, and that's going to drive me wacky. So I'm going to see if I can get that off with my blade here. Perfect. Okay, so now we are almost ready to start putting our cards together. We got to do some die cutting first. So I have these all ready to go. I'm going to do some die cutting with these. We're going to use the coordinating dies. And I am trying out the Anna Griffin machine because my Gemini Junior bit the dust, and it was time for an update, and I couldn't decide which I was going to get, the either Gemini 2 or just the Anna Griffin. And wow, that magnet is I love that magnet. It does make die cutting so much easier. So I'm going to die cut this. I'm going to die cut the thank you, and then I'm going to do it a couple more times so we can add some extra layers. So one thing I really like about the Anna Griffin is it's the Anna Griffin Empress. So I'll leave it linked down below in the description, but I love how quiet it is, because my other machines were super quiet, and when I'm editing videos, I would have to actually turn the volume down on those sections because of how loud it is. Now, one thing that, let's see, we need 2 more. So one thing that we, with this one, you can cut into the magnetic plate or the acrylic. I have seen it being done both ways. I like the magnetic. It does let you see where you're cutting much better. And I like that it's it holds everything in place really nicely. It's got a good magnet mat has really good grip. It does come with a metal shim if you need that, but so far I seems to be working great. I haven't had to add the metal shim or anything like that, so I'm impressed so far. I also like that there's smaller plates, that if you wanted to get some smaller plates, you can do that as well, which I think is a great idea. So we're going to die cut our sentiments now, and that's what I love about it, is that magnet is just fantastic. We're going to go ahead and use the little banner piece that's in the set, and we're going to die cut these 2. All right, now we're just going to keep going here because I have a lot more die cutting to do. So we have our 3 panels, and I am working on all 3 of these. Now this one is where I want to do something a little bit different. There is a coordinating die, and I think I want to die cut this. And let me just flip this over so I'm using the stronger side of the magnet. It'll hold it better. And I'm just going to line this up, and we are going to cut that out. Oh, I did pretty good lining it up. All right. I really like how that turned out. So we are going to be popping this up, but I think I'm going to cut a couple more of these in white cardstock so we can create a little dimension in there. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so for this one, I am going to die cut this one just a little bit smaller than it is. It is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so I'm going a little bit smaller. I'm using the waffle flower layered dies, which are awesome dies. So we're going to die cut this one that way. And originally I was going to take this one and mount it onto some colored cardstock, but I think I'm going to leave it just like this and put it onto just some white cardstock. So that one is that. And now I'm going to grab another one of those dies. Put this one back so we don't lose it. And I'm going to grab, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one in from the largest. I probably shouldn't put a magnet on top of a magnet here. Oh boy. Okay. And for that one, I'm going to take this one and I am going to die cut this just a little further up because I want to get this, and I still want to get some of these flowers, but I don't want it to be that, you know, the full panel. I'm just going to use a small piece of it, a small section. Oh yeah, loving that. And then I'm going to go up one size from this one. So what I do, the fifth, so I am going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to use that to create. Oh, I keep putting it on this. This is like the third or fourth time I put that on that metal plate. I gotta stop doing that. Stop, stop, stop. All right, so I'm going to take some of the ripe avocado that coordinates with the ink that we used, and we're going to die cut that in a little bit larger size than the one we just cut. So it'll be one step up, which is going to be really pretty as a matte layer. I look like I know what I'm doing, don't I? Okay, so we'll have this one right here. That'll go with that one. Then we have just the blue in the way that it is, which will be mounted onto a white card base. And then we still have our teal color. And the teal one, we are going to be doing some layering, but I still want to cut this down. And I know I want it to be a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go 2 down. So we're going to take these two. This one gets put away. I'm taking the Tidepool, is it Tidepool? Tidepool cardstock and cutting that out. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's all fine. And then we're going to take this one and we are going to die cut this and try to center that flower a little bit more. The one that we die cut right here, we're going to try to center that a little bit more on that piece. Okay, lots and lots of die cutting and inking and stamping, but it was so much fun. So we are going to start putting this all together. So let us make our card bases. I have 3 pieces of cardstock. They're cut at 4 1/4 by 11, and then we need to do a score line at 5 1/2 to give us a top fold card. I'm going to do all 3 at once. So we're going to go 5 1/2. And then 5 1/2. I like to use my Teflon bowl folder to do my crease. This is 110-pound cardstock, so it's so thick and you want to have a nice good crease on there. And I like to use the Teflon because it doesn't add any shine when you're doing your crease line. So we have our 3 card bases, and now we're going to go ahead and start putting our first card together. To save time, I went ahead and did some prep work. I layered up some of my sentiments with the extra die cuts that I cut, and I got my card bases ready. So we are going to start putting this together. I have a little tape runner here, and I'm going to start working with this, I guess we'll call it the Tidepool one first, because that's the background color. And I'm just taping this down. I'm just going to use a tape runner rather than liquid adhesive, and I'm going to stick that right in the center of this Tidepool color, just like so. And then I'm going to take liquid adhesive, and one thing I do want to note is that the die cut for this does have another layer that if you wanted to, you can do the center part of this flower and die cut that out as well. But we're going to use this as a little bit of an inlay, and it's popped up because we have added dimension by adding extra layers of cardstock there. So I'm going to let that sit there to let it dry. So here we have some added dimension by adding a bunch of layers. And then I was going to do the thanks and love that I know you, but I think I'm gonna not do the thanks and just do the love that I know you. And for that, I'm going to be adding just some mini foam squares behind that so that it has more dimension and will go over the top of that flower. So the sentiment's just going to go straight across, making sure that we're nice and center. I should have added a little liquid glue back there just to make sure that it didn't, if I got it crooked, I can move it around, but we seem to be okay. Houston, we are okay. So we're going to do some tape runner on the back of this, and we're going to add this to card base, and that's going to be our first card. And then I was thinking about adding some gems or something like that, but I think I'm just going to leave it just like this. Maybe no gems for this one. I'm always adding little embellishments and stuff, but I think we're going to keep that one the way it is. And then we're going to pull out this one. Now this is the one that I die cut a little bit smaller so that I have the thanks and then you're the best. And we're going to go with that one. And this one we're going to leave it just the way it is. Very plain and simple card for today. For this one, we're going to do some tape runner. We'll center that onto our, I believe this was the avocado cardstock. And for this one, I'm just going to add some foam tape to the back, just to do a little bit of dimension. Okay, so we are going to center that right in the middle of that card base. Like so. And then the thanks is already layered. I have a couple layers of the thanks sentiment on there. We're going to set that right in the middle. And then I'm going to add some foam dimension on the back of this one since I didn't cut out extra strips. I'm going to take the thanks, you're the best ever, and put it right across and underneath the you're the best ever, right underneath the thanks. Again, I could add gems to this, but I think I'm leaving it. I am kind of being a little simple today, even though it's not completely simple. Now this one, I cheated. I went ahead and added the foam, put it onto the card base. So all I have to do is just add some liquid adhesive to the back of the I Adore You. And that one we're going to do maybe just a little bit lower. Everything else we've been doing center. So let's center but down lower. And then we'll do the adhesive or the foam adhesive to the back of this. And then we just have to add the Never Ever Forget that I Adore You just above the I Adore You. So Never Ever Forget just goes right above the I Adore You. Maybe a little not so far up, but and there we go. So there we go. That is our 3 cards for today. I had a lot of fun doing the stencils and playing with this, but I will tell you it took me a long time to do all of the stenciling, the die cutting, and so on. So it's not a card that you can mass produce, but it's definitely something fun to just kind of sit and do on a rainy afternoon. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.